Okay, I'm here. Sorry. Talking is overrated. It is overrated. However, I was experiencing a little bit of weirdness. There was hiccups going on both computers at the same time. I was trying to figure out what was going on. I just still don't know what's happening because it wasn't dropping frames. It didn't look like necessarily a network issue, but it was weird. So I was just trying to figure out what it was, but it stopped, it looks like. So, anyway, happy Wednesday. Thank you all very much for coming out. Much appreciated as always. Hope you're having a good week. And before I get too distracted, good afternoon, Veronica.
Good afternoon, Gimpy, and hello everyone. Have a great stream.
Just scare the computer till the hiccups stop. I don't think that works for anything. I think that's a myth for
Your
that one.
next break is in 1 hour.
I'm pretty sure the scaring for hiccups is a myth thing. Anyway, hello everybody in chat. Hello everybody in chat. Jeff, Hurricane, Despairador, Ring, other people, lurkers. Happy Wednesday. Okay, so stream schedule. Today we're going to do some more For the King 2 with Jeff and Hurricane. Thank you to those two for coming out. Much appreciated. And then tomorrow, Thursday, we're going to do some more Baldur's Gate 3. Continue on in the Underdark there. Friday is Celasta multiplayer with Jeff, Hobo, and Hurricane. Saturday, Starfield or X4 with the Star Wars Interworlds mod. Flip a coin for that one. Sunday is Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous Day, where the first half of the stream is campaign stuff with Gimpy the Dwarven Crusader Angel, currently in Act 5. Second half of the stream is the Treasure of the Midnight Isles DLC with Viewer Group 10. And then, let's see, what am I going to do next week? Next week is Thanksgiving on Thursday. So, I don't think it's really going to affect me too much. Because I don't think we're doing anything actually on Thanksgiving Day. Anything special. Might cut the stream a little bit short, but other than that, I'm not really expecting anything on Thursday. But anyway, this weekend. Hey, Veronica, when is the monthly giveaway?
Saturday and Sunday, November 18th and 19th are the monthly giveaways for November. A $25 Steam gift card will be given away each day. You have to be a follower of the channel and present to win. Check with Gimpy if you have any questions about the giveaway. Thanks for watching.
Yep, thanks for watching. And if you have any questions about the giveaway or anything else about the stream, feel free to ask. There's a new patch of Grim Dawn tomorrow, though the actual expansion is slated for next year. They're doing an expansion on the game that's been out for how many years now? Yes, already. It's too soon. Why did they decide to do an expansion now? That's odd. Have they done really anything for the game? I mean, I know they've done a couple of patches here and there, but you're overly happy. What are they going to... I mean, get it as cheap to do. Well, it depends on the quality, doesn't it? I'm kind of shocked. I mean, that game has been... When did it actually release? Steam says February 25th, 2016 was when the game came out. So 7 years, and they're putting out an expansion. They put out other DLCs, though. They've actually, yeah, they don't call the stuff so much DLCs as expansions. They did the Forgotten Gods, Ashes of Malmouth, some other minor stuff. When did those come out? Ashes came out in 2017. Yeah, Forgotten Gods, 2019. So it's been 4 years since the last big content stuff. Mention a bit of the for the eventual updates. Yeah, well, it's just weird because the game came out in 2016. Last expansion, so to speak, was in 2019. So 3 years after the game initially came out, but now 4 years after the last expansion, they put out another one. It's just odd. Are they just not working on anything else? Is that really what that means? Because they do have other games. Barely. You think they're also working up on Age of Titans 2. Age of Titans 2 I might be interested in. You're happy about it? I'm not saying you shouldn't be happy about it. It's just it strikes me as being odd because most games don't, or most developers don't put additional content into a game years later, right? With gaps like that, you go, Paradox does it all the time, but Paradox does a consistent rain of DLCs. They do them every few months. There's a different thing for them. It's been 4 years since the last big content stuff, so it's just odd. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's odd. Anyway. Age of Titans, Grim Dawn, all the same thing. Well, same general idea, but yeah. MWO does the same thing, kinda. Well, MWO is a different monster, though. MWO is a different situation, Jeff. Because it's for MWO, it hasn't been, we haven't put anything out for 4 years. We really haven't done a whole lot in 4 years. It's a different situation. They put stuff out. It's just not a whole lot of different stuff. It's like, we'll reskin this mech, we'll reskin that one, we'll do some updates here and there, that kind of stuff. But it's a different monster. So, and the important questions. Hey, Veronica, who is your favorite pet?
Not you.
Good.
I tell you what to do and you never listen.
That's why.
What kind of a pet does not listen to their master?
Spiridor, you've been complaining about the time to kill lately. Who would have thought with hags? What do they mean by complaining about time to kill? It's too short? Because they introduced hags?
They're going to kind of fix that a little bit with the upcoming patch, supposedly, that's coming out in November. Like a little bit with cool shots. So instead of cool shots giving you a lot of cooling for a very short time, they're extending the cooling for extended time, but it's slower.
Slower, yeah.
So it makes it less effective if you're doing like heavy high heat alpha shots type thing.
Right. So basically the hags are as bad as I initially thought they would be.
I wouldn't say that.
Well, they're changing the game mechanic.
The BLCs is kind of bringing that in as well.
But anyway, it's just all the new stuff they put in recently, right? That's promoting this change. They're changing a game mechanic because of stuff they've introduced, meaning that they didn't think about that too well. Which is, par for the course. So,
well, introduce something different, and now they got to. I kind of assumed they were going to have to do some tweaks after introducing these weapons, anyway. So it keeps things a little bit fresh, I guess. And then I think they're still trying to figure out the pulse, the X pulse things.
What are they just as bad, or they just don't work? They're just as bad.
They kind of work for the lights and the medium X pulse. The large X pulse, I think they're still tweaking that a little bit. It kind of works maybe on some X, but it's not really a mechanic that works too great for quick play, since the weapon system that's good for quick play, I would say, would be skirmish type weapons. And X pulse, you need a lot of face time to make it work, kind of like rotaries or machine guns type thing.
Right, so that's why it works with the lighter, faster mechs, because they just come up, pop you in the back, and run away. Big mechs are too slow to do that, so that's why it's not working for them so much. So,
but it's a different kind of play that you'd have to do to make it work. And if you change your style of play a little bit, you can kind of make it work. But it's, you got to play the game a bit differently.
Yeah.
But the really interesting thing is what they're bringing in with the Centurion hero. So they're giving the Centurion hero a shield arm. Like literally, the arm is going to have a shield on it.
I thought they had shields on them all. Oh, it's going to be a bigger shield. It's going to look like an actual shield.
it'll be an actual shield that'll be part of the arm. So it's like it's something you can add to the Centurion to the arm. I think it increases the armor and the structure for the arm, and it's big, so it's an actual shield that can cover off most of your torso type thing. It looks like a shield.
You said this is for the Genlo or just the Centurion in general?
It's going to be for a Centurion Legend, so for a particular mech,
So not the Genlo.
not the young low. Well, at least from what I've understood so far, it's not for the young low. I think it's for like one of the legends that they're bringing in,
Oh man,
which is kind of neat.
does the Centurion actually still function? Are they actually still useful?
Is it a viable mech that people use a lot? No, you
Yeah,
don't see it out around that
I
used that much.
don't think so. It's a shame because they used to be one of the go-to mechs too, way back when. Oh well, things change.
Yeah, maybe just make some tweaks. Sometimes that they'll do some quirk changes to a mech and that brings it back to life type thing. So, like a mech that has a similar thing, like is the Azil. There's a couple of Azils now. They're not too bad, but before they did the quirk changes, the mech was just junk.
Horrible.
But now they're not that bad. There's a couple of builds for them that it's kind of fun.
So the real question is the population growing or is it still stagnating?
I would say it's stagnating.
Yeah. It's probably never going to return.
But
Well,
considering
it's never going to return.
the type of crowd for MechWarrior, and it's a 10-year-old game. I don't know why it's still around, to be honest, but it is.
You can't really use
It's
the
still kind of fun. So
you can't use the 10-year-old game anymore as an excuse though, because World of Warcraft is older, World of Tanks is older, World of War, all the war games are just about as old, if not older, than the game already. So you can't use the 10-year thing anymore. There's other games that are
World
older
of
than it.
Warcraft. Have they gone through an engine upgrade at some point, or is it still based off the old engine from the original game, like MechWarrior?
I honestly don't know.
I'm not sure.
I think it's the same engine, but they upped the graphic fidelity a few times.
Yeah, that's happened. I know that. It looks better as the game has progressed through time. It looks better, but I don't know if they've actually changed the engine. So
I think MechWarrior needs that, but people have been. I don't know why PJ allows it, but they allow people to tweak their config files now to actually make the graphics a bit better. But then tweaking the config files now, people can get rid of like the lily pads and some of the foliage and some of the maps to
so
make
you're
it easier to
cheating.
see.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
They're just letting it happen.
They don't. It's because at this point it doesn't matter anymore.
Well, at this point, like they were allowing it, but now the maps that this affected the most, they've taken those out of circulation. So like Forest Colony, I think Classic, they got rid of that one and some others.
The best map ever. It was the first map.
Well, I think they just got to tweak it a bit, and then it'll be probably brought back. But yeah, it's a pretty good map.
In the games that lasted more than 10 years are the anomalies. They are the anomalies, but you can't use that as an excuse to say, oh, this game's 10 years old, it needs to go away. Why? There's no reason to say that, unless it's failing completely. That's the only reason you can say that kind of stuff, but you can't use the game's age against it anymore. Because if the game is over 10 years old and it's still out there being played, but it's not picking up new customers, that's on the developers. That's not necessarily on the people that want to play the game. That's just the developers saying we don't want to put the effort in it to make it more modern. So
I would say it's the mech community itself, like a small group of players that kind of keeps it going with the various like leagues and events that occurs every couple of months.
but
And they're just doing just enough to keep it going.
yeah, but I have a feeling that there's not enough, because there's always this rumor floating around. I don't know how true it is, but supposedly, this is the rumor. I don't know if it's true or not, but PGI apparently gets a subsidy from Canada for running a company or something like that. I don't know what it is, and then they were bought out by this European company. I think they might be German, and there's no way MechWarrior Online is making money these days. There's no way. The player population is way too small. It's not a subscription-based service. It's all based off of making purchases, and there's no way they're making enough money to keep the lights on with the current population. Just not happening. So the question is why is it still up? I mean, why hasn't it been shut down? I mean, that's the real question: is why is MWO still up and running after 10 years when it's obviously way past its prime? It doesn't have enough people to keep the lights on. So what's the deal?
Well, that's the thing. I think it has just barely enough people to keep the lights on. I don't think they're throwing that much resources to the game itself,
Well,
and it just keeps kind of plugging along.
well, well, it's not so much throwing. It's they still have cost with electricity, servers. I mean, that's all
Yep.
cost, and then the people that are running it or doing the stuff, that's still money too, because they do have people working in house, and as the Spiritor is saying, they are working on MechWarrior titles, and specifically the MechWarrior 5, with the clans thing coming out next year, that kind of fun stuff. So, I mean, but that's a different thing. I mean those titles have to bring in enough money to justify their existence. I don't think they're going to be sending money from those titles over to MWO just to keep the lights on. I mean, you can say, oh, MWO is nothing more than an advertising, doorway at this point, and it probably is. But I can't see it bringing in that many people to the other MechWarrior titles. I mean, I'm sure it does, but it's not. It can't be that many because the MechWarrior 5 community isn't that big in the first place because it's a MechWarrior title. So, yeah.
Yeah, I still find it amusing, and I like the leagues when it starts up, so that's kind of fun. Yeah, I'm kind of glad it's still going. I'm surprised, but it's all good.
Yeah. And there's an unnamed co-op title intended for co-op for what, MechWarrior 5? I thought it is co-op already. I'm confused. I thought MechWarrior 5 was already co-op. Well, having played it co-op, I'm going to say it is. Co-op from the ground up. Well, I thought that's what they were doing for MechWarrior 5 too.
It's bad as it is if you play it single player. Oh man.
Oh yeah, the MechWarrior 5 sucks as a single player game. It's definitely, you can tell it's intended to be a co-op title because the AI in the game sucks. They didn't put a whole lot of effort in getting the pilot AI to be competent. Well, calling it competent is being very generous. It's definitely a co-op title. And a completely new title, not MechWarrior, or is it going to be another MechWarrior though? Because I don't follow. Do I follow Russ on Twitter? I probably do, but the way they changed Twitter to X and they screwed a bunch of stuff over, it's harder to follow people these days. I really hate the changes they made. But anyway, it's Twitter, and that I refuse to call the other name. It's going to be forever Twitter for me. So anyway, all their products are MechWarrior. Of course they are. Topic of the interview: multiple MechWarrior titles in pipeline. Yeah, that's because they probably have nowhere else to go. Would be my guess. They haven't probably picked up any credible IPs, and they can't come up with their own stuff. That's probably what's going on there, which is understandable. It's easier to work with a well-known, well, maybe not well-known, but a known IP instead of trying to invent your own. It's easier that way. Anyway. Topic of the interview. What interview? Rusted?
MechWarrior 5 clan interview that he did for PC Magazine.
Oh, really?
That's about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think.
Oh.
Maybe a month ago.
Like I said, I haven't been following that stuff. Anyway, shall we get started?
Or we can just chit-chat. It's whatever.
I'm okay with chit-chatting, but is everybody else willing to listen to his chit-chat for the next 6 hours? I don't think so. So what else? I was thinking about this morning. What other new games are coming out in the near future that are people interested in? I know Rogue Trader is coming out soon, but what else is there? I was just trying to think without having to do any actual research. I was just trying to think, what would it be?
Is Space Marine 2 still this year?
Probably, but unfortunately, Space Marine 2 isn't really a big interest for me because I played Space Marine 1 and it gave me massive headaches because of all the flashy stuff. It's not, and I'm going to imagine that 2 is going to be the same way, so I'm not really interested in 2.
Well, I didn't hear any rumors yet, but I'm just saying that Valheim Mistlands came out for beta November 22nd of last year. So, yeah,
Has it been that long?
it's been a year.
Oh,
Well, almost a year.
wow. It seems like it was just yesterday. Hey, Hobo, welcome back. Sorry about that.
So I'm kind of guessing that within probably 3-6 months, maybe we'll see the beta of Hashlands. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Bunch of small indie stuff. Well, there's always a bunch of small indie stuff that's friggin' just tomorrow. Turn-based Thursday. If you're looking for new games, if you're on Twitter, just do hashtag Turn-based Thursday and see what comes up. There's developers, always putting stuff up there that are working on stuff. Indie titles are not a problem. I'm just talking about bigger, well-known titles. That people are looking forward to, because indie titles are indie titles. They're nice and stuff. You can be interested in those, and which I usually am. Watching them and keeping an eye out for those guys. But it's the larger titles that I was more interested in. There's a new Warhammer game. Which one was that one? Because I was
The Age of Sigma thing?
the RTS. No, thank you. World War II turn-based strategy is coming out. Yeah, the World War II stuff is making a resurgence for some reason. But yeah,
Again.
yeah, it's like the World War II turn-based strategy games tend to be on this little 10 to 15 year cycle. And we're getting back into that cycle now. So not a bad thing. It's just funny to see cycles and, genres and stuff. That Space Station RPG I mentioned Discord. Yeah, that I looked into that one, Ring, and it's like, no thanks. It doesn't really look special. No idea why it comes in waves. Usually it's because it's just the way that's the way life works. I mean, fashion is the same way. TV shows are the same way. Music, somewhat. It's just there's a cycle in life, and video games are on the same thing. It's just you got RTS cycles, you got the turn-based strategy ones, you got Cyberpunk's cycle, fantasy. I mean, look at this year for the turn-based stuff for fantasy. Between Pathfinder, Solasta, and Baldur's Gate in the last year and a half or so. Those are the big ones, and they've prompted a bunch of other smaller games too that are still in development or have recently come out. And so, there's cycles out there. So,
Talking about cyberpunky and turn-based, what's with the game from the Space Trader makers? The cyberpunky turn-based?
oh yeah, that just went into early access. I thought they were actually releasing it, but it's still early access. Crap, what's the name of it? I don't remember it. Yeah, but it's the Treese Brothers, the ones who did the Star Frontier stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a good
Frontier.
game. It's just that it's still early access. That's all.
What about the Lamplighter game? Is that one any good?
Disappointing.
Oh,
I
I
didn't.
can't remember if you tried that already or not.
I haven't tried it. I mean, because I was reading early reviews on it, and it's not that it's bad. It's just that it's not different enough, and it's apparently there's very little replay value to it, which is a shame for that type of game. And again, it's kind of disappointing in that. And what was it? I think, if I remember right, now this is pure speculation. I think Harebrained Schemes might be shutting down as a result. I think that Desperator says they got kicked from Paradox. I think they did. I think they're shutting down because the game just wasn't successful enough, and I think it's because it's too. What's the right word? Not
Weird.
I don't know about weird, but too off the beaten path. And the fact that it's takes place in the 30s or something like that. It's like an Indiana Jones type deal, but nobody's really looking for that these days. It's one of those things where remember, we're in cycles right now, and that game is very much not in any of the cycles, and that's the problem.
Wrong time.
Yeah, it's the wrong time for that game. Maybe 5 years ago, maybe 5 years in the future, it might have done or might do better. But right now is not the time for that game. So it's just bad timing. It's not, again, it's not that it's a bad game. It's just, it's in the wrong place right now. And they could do another BattleTech, as Paradox owned all their IP now, and also Microsoft wants too much money for it, right?
Isn't everything MechWarrior BattleTech license still on Microsoft?
Yep. Yep, it's all through Microsoft. Microsoft owns that stuff. So that's just the way it is. If you want to do a MechWarrior BattleTech video game, you have to go through Microsoft because they own the license. They own the rights to it. So, and apparently they want a lot of money for it, for which makes no sense because the games don't make that much money. So if they wanted to do another battle, if Harebrained wanted to do another BattleTech, they couldn't get the funding for the Microsoft license, which is odd because they do have, Paradox behind them. So I don't know.
Well, the BattleTech game didn't do that well, anyways, did it?
I did okay. It didn't do spectacular, but I think it did well because it's a good game and it got a lot of positive press. So, but it just, again, BattleTech MechWarrior are niche universes. It's not like Dungeons and Dragons and Star Wars or Star Trek. It's very niche. There's not a big audience there. And, those of us talking about it, we know about it because we're part of the audience. So we think, oh, they should make all the good stuff. But the reality is nobody else really knows about it. And a whole lot of people aren't really interested in it. So it's going to remain a niche. It's always has been. I mean, it's been a niche product for 40 years. And it's never going to get huge. If it hasn't gotten huge yet, it's never going to. And people are going to say, well, MechWarrior 2 was huge back in 95. It's like, it wasn't as big as you think it was in 95 if you think it was huge in 95. Trust me, it wasn't. There's lots of people.
Yeah, what it really needs is a TV or a cartoon show.
Yes, that'll help it. That ruined it, probably. Then Armored Core came out and pretty damn good numbers. Armored Core is a different beast because it came out on console, too. And
It's a From Software game.
yeah, and it's also not MechWarrior. Armored Core is big giant stompy robots, but it's not MechWarrior. Just like, what was the other game that came out back in the 90s? Big stompy robots. They were supposed to be they were a group spin-off from the BattleTech people. Shit, I forget the name of it. Gears.
Robotech.
That was
Oh,
Gears. Gears was popular, but again, it wasn't as big as MechWarrior. I mean, and people want to see that one come back, but it wasn't super successful either.
I think I played Heavy Gear 1 and I didn't like the customization system.
Yeah, and then Earth Assault and Star Siege. All those games came out back in the 90s and stuff, and they were decent games, but none of them were huge. So Gears tried to kickstart but didn't get going. I remember that, and it didn't work. So, and then like I said, the Armored Core stuff again, that was console-based game, and didn't they just put out a new Armored Core 2 not too long ago, the last couple of months?
Yep. Between Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield.
Yeah.
Right in the middle and say, well,
How did that do? Just out of curiosity, does anybody know how that did? It got good reviews. Okay, reviews don't mean anything. It's all about the sales. Because BattleTech got lots of good reviews too, but it didn't have millions and millions of sales either. The Armored Core has always been too fast for me. So, and 6, I was kind of hoping that Armored Core 6 was going to be a little bit slower paced than its predecessors, but it's not. And I just watched a couple of streams over and I can't play this. It's too fast. So that's why I didn't even talk about it when it first came out. So, but yeah, the giant robots aren't as popular as, what was the other one that came out a couple of years back? The one that's not really a giant robot. It's a big battle suit, really, is what it is. Titanfall. That was popular. I know that, and I think that did well. But it's not really a mech game either. So
Did it do well? I don't know.
I think it did well. It was popular on Twitch. I know that.
So if you can get it on a sale, get Titanfall 2, take a weekend day off, and play the campaign. It's one of the best action game campaigns I've ever played.
But you can play it in a
6
day.
hours. 6 to 8 hours.
6 to 8 hours. No, thank
But
you.
man, it's great. If you can get the game for $5 to $10, get it and play the campaign. It's awesome.
Well, it was free from Epic a while ago, so if you've been following that, you probably already have the game for free.
Probably. 6 to 8 hours to finish a game. I would not buy a game that only lasted 8 hours.
The campaign is just a cherry on top. The main thing about Titanfall is it's a competitive game. It's I don't know, 16 people get in the game, and it's I think 2 teams, and it's actually it's a PvP game.
Okay, so it's one of those. Okay.
I think the first one didn't have a campaign either. So the second one was just a add-on campaign, and everyone was astonished how good the campaign was.
The service seems to be dying out now. That for some reason. Oh yeah, live services tend to die out over time because they need a consistent new injection of new blood into the game, which is hard to do for older games. As games get older, it's harder and harder to get new people into them without getting something really weird going. Apex is made off of Titanfall, and Apex exploded for a while.
Yep.
Yes,
Same,
Apex is still out there.
universe.
Yeah. It's just the pilots, no mechs. That's what Apex really is.
Yep.
MMOs are dying out. It's about time. It's only taken them, what, 20 plus 25 years? MMO's been popular for 25 years now, if not longer.
Isn't that what Star Citizen is?
Star Citizen is technically an MMO, but Star Citizen is actually 2 games too. You've got Star Citizen, which is the MMO portion, and then you got Squadron 42, which is the single player Wing Commander, spin-off type deal. Not really the Wing Commander, but it's the same general idea.
Oh, I just assumed they were integrated.
No, Squadron 42 is separate. However, if you do the backing, at least when Star Citizen first came out decades ago, if you bought in at a certain dollar value, I think it was $40 or $60, you get Squadron 42. And you also get your Star Citizen account. You get one ship, I think, in Star Citizen too. So.
Yeah, I think I bought in on the $60 level. The mercenary level, I got an Origin. What do I know? A ship and the Mission 42 mission disc.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Same.
And the basic thinking is the Squadron 42 is a campaign, a war, and right when that ends is where the timeline for Star Citizen starts. It's after the war, and basically you're decommissioned from military service, and now you're a privateer.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll see how that goes. Seeing that, they've already said that, Squadron 42 is ready to go. They just have to do the final touches to it, that kind of stuff. So it goes, okay, so we got another decade to go before we see Squadron 42 and another
squashing and polishing.
Yeah, that's going to be a long time before we see Squadron 42. So stuff. When we were looking,
Chris Roberts is a perfectionist. It will take a while.
He's not a perfectionist. He acts like he is, but he's not. Have you seen his products? They're not perfect. Did you ever actually even see the movie Wing Commander? Did you know there was a movie Wing Commander? Yeah,
I watched it. I was on the first day on European release. I think it was okay, bit of the part where he changed the story stuff about the pilgrims.
It was bad. There was nothing good about that movie. It was bad. Just so you know, it was bad.
It was fun. It was a nice popcorn flick.
It wasn't. No, you're being overly generous there.
The music was great, but David Arnold.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, so what else? Star Wars is bad too, but people like it. Star Wars is a different monster. Totally different monster. The first 3 movies are what is the saving part to the Star Wars movie universe at this point, because the following 6 movies, they've the was it the episodes 1 through 3, they've got a couple of scenes that might save them a little bit, but not enough. Mainly anything involving the lightsaber fights. You know, maybe now the ship battles are pretty bad actually for the most part, but the lightsaber fights in the first 3 episodes, okay. But the last 3 movies, I don't find anything redeeming in them at all. So what are you gonna? I mean, it's just that's the way it is, I guess. Mainly because its expectations are really high for the Star Wars universe in general. So people expect a lot, and when you underdeliver by a lot, you get what we got. And why they were so bad is I have no idea. Mainly, I think because we were expecting what we were getting in the novels back in the 80s and 90s, basically, for these for the 6 following movies, for episodes 1 through 3, and then 5 through. Sorry, not 5.
I think I read
7 through
a
10.
3-book trilogy from Timothy Fan.
Yep.
I thought that would be a good progress for episodes 7 to 9.
It was. It should have been. The problem is they waited too long to do it, because those novels are specifically meant to be post Return of the Jedi only by a few years. So, and it's too late to do that unless you.
And they wanted to go with the old cast, and they were too old to do that.
Yep. It was. They waited too long. If they would have done the movies in the 90s after the novels came out, it would have worked. But now it's too late. It's too late. They would have to recast everybody, and it wouldn't be the same. And I think that's why they avoided those stories, even though they would have been epic Star Wars movies, because they're great novels. I've read them more than once, and they're just great novels, and they're very much Star Wars, and they're written well, and they would have made great movies, but unfortunately they just waited too long.
I don't know. Wait for 20 years, wait for most of them to die, and then just use AI to recreate them. So I'm sure that technology will be coming out sooner there at some point.
They've actually tried doing stuff like that in some of the Star Wars series on Disney Plus, where Luke actually makes appearances in a couple of episodes in some of the series, and it's not Hamill. It's not Mark Hamill, because he doesn't have the body for it anymore. For one, to do it, because of the way the series are done in Disney is like The Mandalorian or Ahsoka. The series they're basically like post Return of the Jedi, only by a couple of years though at most. So Luke actually shows up in a couple of the episodes, but it's young Luke from Return of the Jedi. And it's just some actor that's got the same type of body build as Mark Hamill.
It was Mark Hamill posting photos, at least for the first appearance in Mandalorian in the last episode of the first season. It was Mark Hamill.
His actual body?
He acted, and they put the AI stuff over him.
Okay, well that's understandable, but the body that they're showing in the episode is not his current body. It's supposed to be his body from Return of the Jedi, and they do the digital thing with his face to make it look like it's him. They did the same thing to Leia in Rogue One. Spoiler alert, and it looks odd.
Tarkin.
And Governor Tarkin, that's right, they did for him there too.
Those two in Rogue One were still uncanny valley, but it's gotten better for
it gets better
appearance to appearance.
Yeah, it gets better as the technology improves. It gets better. Hey Taco, welcome back. But it still doesn't look right. It still doesn't look right, and I understand why they're doing it. But hearing Mark Hamill's voice was during the Mandalorian appearance, and Luke shows up and then he starts talking, and I went, "That's Mark Hamill actually saying those lines." And Mrs. Gimpy looks at me and goes, "Who?" And I go, "The original Luke Skywalker. The actor who actually played him back in the 80s. That's actually him speaking." And she goes, "Oh." She had no interest whatsoever. She's not a Star Wars person. So, but yeah, so we get that kind of stuff. And Ring, the first 3 movies were very eye-catchy for their time. You can't find anything memorable about their story except for Luke, I am your father. Well, that is the story, That is the story, though, Ring. That's the whole point of those 3 movies is, Luke, I'm your father. because it's a continuation of that storyline. You know, Vader's really his father, and Luke is, trying to become a Jedi and all this other fun stuff. And yeah, that is the story. There's not much to it other than, trying to defeat the Empire type deal, which, kill the Emperor type, which didn't really work in the
I thought it
novels.
was all about the Ewoks, pretty much.
That was pod races were fun. Wrong set of movies, Ring. Those were not the first 3 movies. Those were the second 3 movies.
Or the Hollywood, or the Christmas specials that they had for those movies.
Oh God, why are you bringing that up?
I was an awful person.
Why are you doing that? Most people here in this channel are some of them are old enough to know what you're talking about, but I don't know if anybody really wants to remember that.
The whole thing is on YouTube.
Oh, I know it is. We just don't talk about it. Yeah. I actually remember watching that on TV. So. And back then, it wasn't that horrible. That's the worst part about it. When you're a kid, it wasn't that bad. It's just as you got older and you went back and watched it again, you go, well, I watched this as a kid and my brain didn't explode. Oh, it was bad. It was.
What I remember watching as a kid was the 3PO and R2D2 comics.
Yeah, the cartoon. was
cartoon.
pretty good.
Cartoon. Yeah, I remember the cartoon. Yep.
Yeah, they had a cartoon based off of them and one off of the Ewoks, I think. They were both okay.
Yeah, the droids. I think it was on Saturday mornings. The Ewok stuff. They had their cartoon too.
Wasn't there even 2 Ewok spin-off movies?
There were made-for-TV Ewok movies. Yes, I remember those too.
Oh, yeah, there was. Yeah.
The live-action spin-off special. Well, there was a couple of them. I think there was a couple of Ewoks stuff live action.
I
Yeah,
remember 2 movies.
yeah, I think there was 2. Remember the little girl one? I don't remember the second one, what the storyline was there. But I know that I definitely remember one of them. There's probably a second one. I can't remember the story. Aren't Ewok carnivores? Yes, of course they're carnivores. They're little bears. Ewoks are only carnivores on weekends when the cameras aren't rolling. Excuse me. Yes, humans eat meat too. So do dogs and cats and birds. And fish. And frogs. Well, frogs eat bugs. That's technically a meat, right? Snakes definitely eat meat. Lots of things are carnivores. Humans are the worst animals. They're the best animals at being the worst animals. They were celebrating that because they had a bunch of fresh meat. Well, that would be usually how it works, isn't it? Usually celebrate that kind of stuff. That's why we have Thanksgiving in a couple of days. It's when all the carnivores come out and all the birds run out of fear.
I thought your president pardons like a bunch of the birds, though. And
No, the president only pardons one turkey.
just one?
Only the one turkey gets pardoned. And then he probably dies next year. When he's nice and big and more plump, would be my guess. Yeah, he only pardons one turkey. I think it used to be one turkey. It might be more these days. I thought it was only one. But shall we get started, or we want to keep talking?
Meh, it's up to you.
You got a turkey pet? No, we don't got a turkey pet. God, if we had a turkey pet, that would be bad.
I think it would take over the house. They can get rather large.
They get rather angry too.
Well, it depends on the bird's personality, I guess.
Yeah. Hobo has his venison for the year. So what you're saying is you killed Bambi's mom. Right, Hobo? You killed Bambi's mom.
Well, I don't know. Deer is like
Oh, killed his
rats and
dad.
other things. There's lots and lots of them around, so it doesn't matter.
Hobo,
It's just a deer.
Hobo killed Bambi's dad. He probably killed Bambi himself, actually. The buck stopped there. Right over there on the ground, right there. That's where the buck stopped. Right on top of that pool. Pool, sorry, pool of blood. Sorry, I got that backwards.
Well, he's got to feed Bob somehow, so it's good that he's doing stuff like that.
Oh yeah, Bob would love a lot of venison, wouldn't he? Poor Bob. Bob gets no credit. No respect for Bob.
What do you mean? He's helping Bob. He gives him bird feeders. He gives him venison. It's great.
I was actually, what was I doing? I was trying to remember something the other day. I was going back in time in my brain to remember stuff. I couldn't remember the names of people. So what was I doing? I was giving them Bob names. I was going PR Bob, pain in the ass Bob, ugly Bob, noisy Bob. That's how I was like calling them in my memories. That's how I've named these people. Male, female, didn't matter. Their all name is Bob with some extension to it. That's how my memory works. That's how I do names in general. Because my memory, for those of you who don't know, I've got really crappy memory, especially when it comes to names. And I remember faces fine, but names not so well. And it doesn't matter who it is. Like Mrs. Gimpy, I have multiple names for her and for the dogs. Because again, I'm bad at pulling up names when I need to pull them up. So the first name that comes to me, like Mrs. Gimpy, I call her Mrs. Gimpy in real life sometimes when I can't remember her real name. And she just looks at me. She goes, okay, Mr. Gimpy. And I go, that's not my name. She goes, Mrs. Gimpy's not my name either. And then,
well, as long as you don't call her "Hey you," I guess then it's all good.
Oh, that never goes over well. That would not fly for sure. That would be very bad. Hey you. Hey you doesn't even work on the dogs. They totally ignore that one. Of course, they're deaf now too. But although Mrs. Gimpy started calling Mickey Rocket this morning, that was funny. More than once she called him Rocket this morning. I was there for both instances. In the first one, and she goes, okay, Rocket, come here. She was trying to leash him up for their walk. And I just looked at her and go, you sure that's Rocket? And she goes, oh. She goes, no, that's Mickey. I go, yes, it is Mickey. Why'd you call him Rocket? She goes, I don't know. And she did it another time, like half hour after that, she called him Rocket again. Or she started to call him Rocket. She started to go, she was waving at him. She goes, come here, Rock. And she stopped. She caught herself. And I go, ha, you were going to call him Rocket again. She goes, shut up. But I remember Bob. Bob is my go-to name. That's why. Bob is my go-to name for everybody and everything. Anytime I see somebody that I don't remember their name, it becomes Bob. And it really worked. It used to work out for me really well back in the early 2000s and stuff. Because I actually worked with 3 Bobs, which of course they didn't all go by Bob. One was Bob, one was Rob, and the other one was Robert. But I got away with calling them all Bob. And they totally accepted it. So, it was no problem for me. So that was actually what started the whole thing with me calling people Bob, was those 3 guys. So I'm not mixing up Mickey and Rocket's names after all. No, you don't need to be worried about it. It's fun when Mrs. Gimpy does it because it's the thing. The thing is, my mom does this. She calls me my brother's name all the time too. I talk to her every week. My mother, and she calls me my brother's name all the friggin' time. And of course, the funniest part is her husband, my stepfather, has the same name as my brother, so she gets to go, gets to get away with not having to memorize those 2 names when they're in the same room. She just, says the name and they both respond. But when she's talking to me and she calls me my brother's name, I just don't respond. And then she gets upset at me and she goes, why aren't you listening? Why aren't you answering me? I go, are you talking to me? She goes, yeah, I said your name. I go, no, you did not. You did not say my name. My name is nowhere close to my brother's name. So that's that. But yeah, call a Puerto Rican Bob. Why would you do that? What's the story behind that one, Taco? Why would you call a Puerto Rican Bob? Pretty sure there's not a lot of Bobs. with Hispanic name or Latinos with the name Bob. I'm trying to think. No, there's Roberto, but that's not Bob. Oh, I know you're Puerto Rican, but why are you saying call a Puerto Rican Bob? Are you supposed to get punched when you call a Puerto Rican Bob? Is it an insult? That's my curiosity, because I know, I don't know any Latinos that go by Bob. Hector is the same. What's Hector got to do? What's Hector got to do with it? Hector's nowhere close to being Bob. I think we're going to run into first break before we actually start the game. Or should we do that?
Yeah, it's up to you.
I have the game running right now. I've been listening to the soundtrack for the menu screen while watching the dog video. It actually works fairly well on some of these videos. It's kind of interesting. Especially on the treadmill. We're high energy today. Apparently we are. I'm not even sure. How do we even get started on this whole thing? I mean, we've been on numerous topics. We've been Bob, Star Wars stuff, talking about games. Somehow, how some have failed and others haven't. Should we do a complete circle and go back to talking about games? Go back to...
No, why not?
Grim Dawn. For those of you who missed the beginning of the stream, Grim Dawn is getting an expansion soon, right?
Soonish. I think it's supposed to come out next year, but it's getting a very significant patch that's being released for tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Does that mean we're playing Grim Dawn?
It's tweaking a lot of the game mechanics, tweaking a lot of the equipment associated with the game. It changes the potion mechanics quite a bit. So it's quite a significant change. If you read the patch notes, it's massive. Like there's this other guy I was watching the YouTube video for it. He spent 6 hours, a 6-hour YouTube video talking through the patch notes. So that just tells you how big that patch notes is.
Wow, that's a long time to talk about patch notes.
It's quite extensive.
In Taco, you say, I started with me being called Gimpy by Mrs. Gimpy. Yeah, you're about 40 minutes too late there. That didn't happen until about 40 minutes into the conversation. But so significant patch tomorrow, expansion next year, new class.
There's another patch for tomorrow as well. Deep Rock Galactic is getting a patch tomorrow. That's you can turn off, as long as you get to a level 100 for your character, you can turn off the what's that called again? Corruption creep or whatever that's called. So stuff that's for season 5, you can turn that off. So you don't have to deal with corruptors or all that stuff.
Woo!
And some other tweaks as well, which can't quite remember, but that was the main one.
That's great.
You can turn it back on again as well. And they also decreased the strength of the corruption attacks and whatnot, so it's a lot less a pain in the ass. And they tweaked a couple other things as well to make it like that one bug that grabs you all the time. Supposedly they tweaked that as well, that it occurs less often.
The bug that grabs you. The
tentacles?
tentacles?
There's one. No, not the one from up above, but from the grabs you from across type thing. I always forget their names.
Yeah.
That's a new
They're
one.
a pain in
Yeah.
the ass. They kill me all the time.
Oh, I almost forgot. We got rain today. Actually got thunder and everything, too. I forgot about that. We're supposed to be having thunder here, or rain in another hour or so, too. Supposed to have a whole day of rain, supposedly. We got about an hour or so earlier this morning. It's supposed to start up here in another hour or two. Like I said, we had a lot of thunder. No lightning, but a lot of thunder. Didn't scare the dogs. Talking.
I don't know. The only way you can scare the dogs down is if you don't feed them their daily chicken, I would say.
It's not, well, you can start. I don't know if you can scare them, but you can startle them really easy. Just sneak up on them and touch them when they're not expecting it. They freak out. They jump. But yes, Rocket gets very upset when he doesn't get his meal on time because he this is his new thing at night at least. He started doing it in the morning too. Is that because we usually try to eat first? At least that's my goal, is to eat before the dogs do. And Mrs. Gimpy usually starts cooking their chicken about the same time we start eating. So they have to sit there and kind of like, smell us eating our food, and they can smell their food coming up too. And Rocket has started howling at Mrs. Gimpy while she's eating because he wants to eat as well. No, we don't eat dog food, Snefkin. We eat different food. Although some of their food is better than the food I eat, but that's a different story. But no, Rocket has started howling at Mrs. Gimpy while she's eating because he doesn't have his food yet. And he originally it was just at night during dinner, but the last week or so he started doing it in the mornings too, which is hilarious. I think it's hilarious. I start laughing. Mrs. Gimpy doesn't appreciate it. I go, you better start eating faster. He's going to end up in your lap eating your dinner or your breakfast. So how can you eat before the dogs if the dogs wake you up by cleaning your nasal cavities? How can you eat before the dogs if the dogs wake you up by cleaning your nasal cavities? I don't understand the question. Have you tried an all fruits diet? What, for me? God, no. Why would I do that? Well, I know they're licking my nose, but that's not breakfast. That's not a meal. I don't have enough snot in my nose for them to eat. There's not enough in there for them, or for Mickey. And actually, Mickey usually doesn't do that anymore, mainly because old age. And in order to get me in the mornings, he has to walk up a little stairway. And he just doesn't do it anymore. The only way he can get me is if Mrs. Gimpy puts him on the bed with me. Because neither one of them goes up the stairs to get on the bed anymore. Their hips bother them too much, or their knees bother them too much. It's too much for them to go up and down the stairs. And I don't know if it's because they can't get up the stairs. It's because they know that once they get up on the bed, they have to get back down. And they really don't like going downstairs. And they definitely don't want to jump off the bed. Saw a guy on YouTube doing that. What, letting the dogs clean out his nose? Well, that's on him. Depending on the size of the dog really matters too. Because getting your face licked by a golden retriever is very different than getting your face licked by a Papillon. Just to let you know. There's a huge difference there. It's pretty good, but I can't... Oh. It's pretty good. I can't do that. Not the fruit. One picks your nose, the other washes your face. No, that's not how it works. No, they don't pick your nose. Dogs don't pick your nose. They've got no way to pick your nose. Well, they could use their paws, but that would hurt a lot because, they have claws. So that would be kind of rough. But anyway. Yes, you need a monkey to pick your nose. Seeing it happen. When we first got Mickey and Rocket, when they were about, when we first brought them home, they were 10 weeks old, and they still had their puppy teeth, which means super sharp, right? And Mrs. Gimpy she was holding Mickey, and he was in her lap, and she was holding him up and looking him in his face, or looking him in the face, and he started to do a little snap at her face, snapping at her. Because she was talking to him, and the air in his face was irritating him, so he's snapping at the air. And so she said, oh, this will be funny, and she blew in his face instead. So what his response? He bit her nose. He almost pierced her nose, her nostril, her left nostril. She still has a little scar, I think, where he actually bit her nose and almost gave her a nose piercing. And she screamed. She's like, ah. I go, it wasn't his fault. You're the one who blew in his face. You knew it was going to come. And it was hilarious because, again, she still has a little scar in her left nostril from it because he almost did pierce her nose. So, can't have fart in your face when he needed to. Yeah, cats are pleasant animals. Cats are pleasant animals. And now, as another Mickey story, but old age-wise, is Mickey is embarrassed when he farts. How do we know this? Because these days, because of his age, he'll be walking through the living room or whatever, and he'll cough for whatever reason. And when he coughs, he farts. And then after he farts, he looks around like, did anybody hear that? And then he just kind of like casually sneaks away. It's hilarious. Rocket, he just farts. He doesn't give a shit. He'll kill you. Doesn't he get scared when he farts? Well, it's not so much that he gets scared, it startles him. Because basically, because of his age, when he coughs, he gives out a little fart, and it's hilarious. The first time he did it, I laughed my head off, but for some, he's self-conscious about it because he realized that something's not right in that whole little sequence. So, oh, they don't care when they smell their own farts. That doesn't bother them. Rocket's a monster. Rocket likes to lay underneath my desk and fart away. So one of these days, you probably, I'll be talking, all of a sudden I just stop talking, and the stream will just continually go on for like hours and hours.
Hey Gimpy, it is time to take a break.
That would be because Rocket killed me with his farts, because he's going to do that one of these days. Luckily, he's not.
Your next break is in 1 hour.
Luckily, he's not underneath the desk right now. So, anyway, we've been talking for nothing but an hour. You should probably take a break and come back and play a game. Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you everybody for being patient. That went a lot longer than I intended it to go, but that's okay. It was fun. I haven't done that in a long time, actually. We just talked. Yes, dog farts are great conversation starters and enders. How's that for a segue? Gonna get up, stretch the legs, get some water. I'll go check on the dog, see what they're up to, because Mrs. Gimpy's actually not here. She went to go work out. The question is they're not in front of the dog camera. So anyway, we'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll get started with For the King 2. So thank you for being patient. Thank you for participating in the talking or the conversation, whatever. It's been fun. We'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the dog video that you've been watching.